I started teaching people how to find money because that's what I was doing. I was getting resourceful and trying to get creative. And how do you figure out what debt to pay off? Not based on the interest rate, but I used my own formula that's now called the cash flow index that I've used and things like that. So just all those things happened. And as I pivoted my business, finally in 2009, it started to reverse. And then I started to dig out of that debt hole little by little. Bankruptcy would have been way easier, but I was just too dang stubborn. And so eventually I paid off the debt, got to the point where I had enough passive income coming in by the end of 2016. With December 2016, I finally said, I did it again. I'm there. 39 years old. Here we are. And so that's my story in a nutshell. I know that's a lot to unpack. That's all there. There's lots of avenues we can go with this, whether you want to go down the struggle route or the real estate route.
I love it. And I love when we get people like you who come on the show who share the honesty of the peaks and the valleys. So like for our listeners, guys, sometimes you hear somebody come on and they only talk about the peaks. Oh, this is amazing. These are my great deals and everything. And I get that. Like that happens a lot of the time, right? We only want to share the home runs, but we can really learn so much, both in our own experiences and from hearing from others when we share those valleys as well. So thank you, first off, Chris, for sharing that. And what I would love to hear is you talked about, that recovery, right? From 2008 to 2016. It sounds like overall you started very active with real estate. I'd love to hear about your transition from active to passive, because that's something we kind of talked about at the beginning. So what did that journey look like for you? Because it's a common journey that investors make. And for people who are maybe at the beginning part of that, it would be helpful, I think, to hear what it looked like for you.
Absolutely. Yeah. So with my situation, when I was, for example, I had my starter home as a rental. I remember I rented to a tenant that was getting some government subsidies and things like that. And it wasn't Section 8, but it was something similar. And I thought, hey, it's fine. She lives a few blocks away. I went to even visit her own apartment. Now it was trashy, but I was like, oh, she's just a messy person. Didn't equate that would apply to my own house, right? And I was managing it myself. And I found out I was the worst property manager in the world. Like I would let any excuse slide by so that she wouldn't pay me.
No.
And eventually after a year, I evicted her. I was just like, hey, we're done here. You got to get out. And they trashed the place. They had pizza frozen to the floor. This is middle of winter when I evicted them. Pizza was frozen to the floor upside down. There was holes in the wall. The only thing that wasn't, they stole my lawnmower. Like all this kind of stuff, right? I was like, dang, what the heck? And I remember the first time I went through the house was actually through a potential buyer. Because I just put it for sale by owner on the sign up there. And somebody saw the sign, called me up, and I said, hey, I haven't gone through to clean the house yet. And I'm looking at it with them. I started bawling because I'm just like, this was the house I put so much labor of love into.
Right.
Like I painted it, like it was a 1970s house, had like the fuzzy wallpaper and the calico colored carpet. And literally you almost had to have a lawnmower of a vacuum cleaner to go over that huge shag carpet, right? And then just see it just trashed. Was just miserable. I was fortunate enough that I was able to get out from under it, but it was bad. It was really, really bad. And so I had really PTSD, coming out of that recession, and I'd seen not just me, but I saw a lot of other people get hurt too in the real estate world. And so when I started to try to get back into real estate about the it was a leap of faith for me. I was literally having to breathe through the anxiety of, I hope I don't make another mistake. And I wish I had the cash to have done that much sooner. It's just like they talk about, like if, like a Formula One race car driver, if they don't get back behind the wheel, they might be scared to ever drive again, right?
Right. You got to get back on that horse, and the sooner the better.
That's right. Yeah. You got to overcome that fear and get back up again. And so for me, it was many years. And so it took me some time to get that faith. And it took me doing turnkey rentals to start, because I had a friend that owned a turnkey company. He had done it for many years. He survived the recession great. He didn't have that problem because he was focused on cash flow and profit of the properties, not the appreciation. My mistake was that I thought, well, properties always appreciate. So yeah, even if it's a little bit negative cash flow, it's okay because it appreciates. That's not always the case. And he came through as a hero, because now he's able to gobble up these properties at discount prices, especially going into 2011, 12, 13, right?
Right.
And so I'm coming back in the 2010s, mid 2010s, and I had to take that leap of faith. So for me, it just started with one property. It started with one property, bought in Memphis. They property managed it and everything. I stayed hands off, and it was great. And then I bought another and another, right? And then I was like, cool, maybe I can start trying these kind of avenues now. Maybe I'll go try this kind of debt fund. Maybe I'll do some apartment syndication investing and things like that, which now recently in the last 3 years haven't been great, but we have, seen like really good days in that too, and I've seen some of those pay off well as well. And so it just kind of started out with one at a time and just kind of build those faith muscles. And then as you build it, you start to see the evidence. It's easier to do it again and go again. And then you start really doubling down. And that's one thing I teach in my book, The Work Optional Blueprint. I talk about there's like 5 phases you go through. That phase where I call it the income avalanche. right? Some people talk about like, like debt avalanche, like when they're paying off debt. I think of it as an income avalanche because say you get up to the point you finally get to that $1,000 a month passive income, saving that $1,000 a month to then reinvest and do it again. Like now it starts to not compound interest, but compound income, right? And that's the beauty of it. It's like, oh, I can do this again and again. And you keep reinvesting and building and growing. And that's the exciting part. And sometimes you start doubling down. Sometimes you start seeing some things you're like, you know what, that was good. Let's do a little bit more there. And I try to be very good, especially when we teach our one-on-one clients, like you want to be diversified. Don't go too heavy with one operator or anything like that, but really just trying it one-on-one and try to diversify it out a little bit. And I mean, so like, for example, like, I did a mineral rights deal, with oil and gas. I vowed I wouldn't never do oil and gas because I saw too many of those deals go south, but I found somebody I trusted and it worked great. And I was like, let's do it again. And so we invested again, like last year. And I think that's the thing is like, now I will say this, like I would not worry about trying to do any of these kind of investments unless you've got at least $100,000 in cash that's sitting around. And I don't mean your emergency fund. I learned the hard way that every time I tried to just take every dollar I had, something bad would happen. I've learned is that, this is why I teach people like in my book, like it's actually, this is the book right here, Work Optional Blueprints on Amazon. But I teach about get lean, get liquid, and get out. And this is great if you're a business owner, especially.